morning, Abby, it's Monday, and I can show you a book that really wanted to be good. Quite honestly, it should have been, but instead it just falls flat. A whole new world. So, I promised you all that today would be a book review day, so I have with me here, as you have no doubt noticed, a book. It is called A Whole New World, A Twisted Tale by Liz Braswell, and it basically takes the Disney movie Aladdin, and it explores the concept, what if Aladdin had never found the lamp? Now, if you read the back of this book, they are, really trying to hype up this book and make it sound awesome. Listen to this. This isn't the story you already know. This is a story about power, about revolutionaries, about love, and about one moment changing everything. They're really trying to make this sound, dark and epic and edgy and not your mama's Aladdin or whatever, but, it just, for me, it just kind of wasn't that. It just kind of felt very underwhelming for, most of the book. I'm going to be going into a lot more detail as to why as this review goes on, obviously, but the three main reasons are that there are only one or two scenes or two or three scenes in the entire book that were genuinely dark and atmospheric and made me invested in what was going on. The lead characters, the way their narration and their inner thoughts and monologues were written alongside their actions made it really hard for me to like them, and considering that Jasmine is one of my favorite Disney princesses, that right there is already a bad sign. And there were just lots of really little stupid things that just didn't make sense, and when you combine those three elements together, a fun time for Molly it does not make. But before we get into all of that, I should probably actually tell you about the plot of this book so that you actually understand what I'm talking about when I complain about certain things. I'm not going to spoil the ending or anything, I just want to give you a general idea of what the heck is going on. So the first, 80 pages of this book is just dedicated to retelling the story, the first 20 to 25 minutes of Aladdin. I know that sounds like a lot, but, it actually goes by pretty quickly. Aladdin saves Jasmine from the mean apple guy, they go to his house, Jasmine is taken back to the palace, Aladdin is taken to jail, Jafar breaks him out, they go to the Cave of Wonders, Aladdin almost makes it out, but Abu decides to be stupid, and everything goes to lava. In the Disney movie at this point, Jafar tries to take the lamp from Aladdin, but the cave closes in, and Aladdin uses the genie's magic to get himself out of the Cave of Wonders. In the book, Jafar takes the lamp from Aladdin before the cave closes, so now Jafar is in the outside world with the lamp and his, insanity, and Aladdin is stuck inside the Cave of Wonders where he dies horribly. End of the book. I'm just kidding, you guys. Or am I? Jafar goes to the palace, summons the genie, and uses his wishes for the exact same things he uses them for in the movie. First he becomes the Sultan, then he becomes the most powerful sorcerer in the world, then he tries to make Jasmine fall in love with him, but it doesn't work because the genie's rules and crap. Then Jafar heads outside with the Sultan and Jasmine to this, balcony that's attached to the palace, and he announces to everyone that he is the new ruler of Agrabah, and he uses his magic to make coins fall from the sky. In other words, he is literally making it rain in both the actual meaning of that phrase and the internet meaning of that phrase. While all of the citizens are down below scavenging after the gold, Jafar pushes the Sultan over the side of the balcony, and he dies. And Jasmine is literally the only person who notices or cares because the people of Agrabah are just that desperate for money. Seriously, how terrible was Jasmine's father at his job? Come on. Meanwhile, Aladdin is still in the Tiger Head Cave, and he is still not dead somehow. He is, however, an optimist, as he literally spends all of his time just digging and digging and digging in the cave, just hoping that he will find a way out. Honestly, Aladdin is goals. I couldn't do that. This is one of those few scenes that I mentioned at the beginning that is genuinely dark and atmospheric, because Aladdin is literally stuck in the cave without food or water or sunlight for 2 or 3 days, so of course he starts going a little insane, and it gets to the point where he literally begins to believe that Abu and the magic carpet are just hallucinations, and it's just a really chilling and well-written scene, and Props to the offer. Eventually, Aladdin does make it out of the cave, but once he gets back to Agrabah, he is just super confused because now Jafar is the Sultan and everyone loves him for some reason. So he decides to go contact his old friends who both have ridiculous names that I am probably mispronouncing, Morgiana and Duban. Aladdin used to be really good friends with these two, but then eventually they decided to make thieving their full-time job and they set up a full-on crime syndicate in Agrabah, whereas Aladdin only steals what he needs to not die. So eventually Aladdin had a falling out with the other two. Morgiana is just a merger of every kick-ass independent woman that you have seen in like every single action movie. Like she's this super tough, super smart, super aggressive woman who could kill you before you even had time to process what was going on. But like when she's not murdering people, she's actually a really calm and level-headed person, and the only real reason that she acts like this is because she was forced to from a young age, and she actually cries at the end, and it's because her love interest was in danger, and those tears are what makes her realize that she liked him that way. And like, I'm not saying this is like a negative criticism of her character, it's just literally the simplest way to describe her. And Duban is just this guy who is really nice on the outside, but on the inside he has like a lot of built up anger and depression because he and his family's life has just always kind of sucked, and he sees this as like a great injustice, which I mean, it kind of is. Morgiana and Duban inform Aladdin of what has been going down in Agrabah, and Aladdin decides that the only logical course of action is to bust Jasmine out of the palace. Like, I guess it's fine, because Jasmine did want to get away from the palace. She wanted to get away from Jafar so that she didn't have to marry him. But, like, I don't think that if I were in this situation, that's what I would do. I would probably spend some time, like, sleeping, because I had just been trapped in a cave for, like, 3 days on end. So, like, a nap would be appreciated in that situation. I think scenarios like this are why the Sorting Hat placed me in Slytherin. The rest of the book centers around Aladdin, Jasmine, Morgiana, and Duban heading up the resistance army to fight against Jafar's evil dictatorship, which transitions us nicely into one of my least favorite things about this book. The book is too focused on trying to make you dislike Jafar, and not focused enough on trying to make Jafar's actions, A, make sense with his character, or B, make, like, any sense at all. So once Jafar is told by the genie that he can't make Jasmine fall in love with him, he decides to seek out this book that will supposedly allow him to break the 3 laws of magic. But between when he sends out his people to go get the book and when the book actually arrives at his palace, Jafar is like, you know, making Jasmine love me, which is like one of my major character motivations, that can wait. Instead, I'm going to summon myself a giant zombie army that can fly for some reason. Yes, that is an actual thing that happens in this book. There is a flying zombie army, and I have no idea why. You could say that the reason Jafar wants a zombie army is to help out with the giant battle that happens at the end of the book, but the book hammers home multiple times that Jafar is not a tactician. He is not good with battle strategy. He's just a vizier, and that is literally the only reason he loses the battle at the end of the book. So, what purpose does Jafar having a zombie army serve in the story? Answer, it doesn't serve a purpose. It's just because the author really wants us to know that Jafar is evil, which is something that we already know because we've already watched the Disney movie. And I think that right there is the same reason why in the Disney movie, Jafar is a jealous, power-crazed vizier, while in this book, Jafar is a jealous, power-crazed, absolute freaking psychopath. Jafar does some pretty messed up things in this book. I'm not going into details, not because it's particularly spoiler-related, it's just that, like, you get a really good shock value from reading some of those scenes for the first time, and I don't want to take that away from you. But my point is, in the book, Jafar seems significantly more, not just evil, but, like, mentally insane than I have seen him appear in, like, any other portrayal of him ever. I wouldn't mind this nearly as much if these psychotic episodes actually connected to Jafar's main goal, but they don't. Most of the time, it's just the book trying to remind you that, hey, Jafar is evil, which now that I think about it, that might actually be, like, the main theme of the story. Because there are entire pages of this book that I believe that you could literally just, like, rip out and replace with the words Jafar is evil in big, bold text, and you literally wouldn't lose any elements of the story. Also, like, I'm the type of person who is a sucker for, like, sympathetic villains, like, people who are very obviously evil, but who, like, have a reason for their being evil, so, like, you don't 100% hate them as much as you could. And this book, like, tries to give Jafar a backstory and, like, some throwaway lines of dialogue. But, like, honestly, it doesn't make him any less of a psychopath. And this somewhat connects me into my next main point. Even though this story is clearly written with young adults in mind, all of the characters, and even the narrator and the plot, have the thought processes of characters from a kids' movie, and it makes me feel like I'm being talked down to the entire book, and it's really, really grating. So at one point, Jasmine and some other characters run into this guy, and he's clearly, like, insane and not right in the head. He's, like, rambling crazily about how Jafar's new world is going to be amazing. And on his hand, he has branded into his skin the symbol that is on Jafar's new special currency that is like the symbol of his entire dictatorship. And Jasmine literally asks the guy, "Who did this to you?" Jasmine? Who the frick else would it be? The thing is, I think this kind of thought process almost works with Aladdin, because his whole character is that he's very agile and quick on his feet, but when he's not running away from guards, he's a total doofus. However, Jasmine is their group's battle command station. She sits up all night coming up with these complex plans and strategizing, and that is why she and Aladdin work so well together as characters. She comes up with the plan, and Aladdin improvises if it goes wrong. But Jasmine is supposed to be significantly book smarter than him. I find it very hard to believe that she is unable to pick up on the very obvious context clues being shoved right in her face. The absolute worst example of them simplifying and kiddying everything down comes towards the end of the story. Because there's a chapter that ends with the characters deciding, alright, we're going to make a battle plan, and we're going to storm Jafar and give him a war. And, like, it's really intense and dramatic. You know what would be clever? If the next chapter started at that battle, at that war, and they explained the battle plan to the audience through narration, dialogue, and just letting the readers pick up on things by themselves. You know what isn't clever? Spending 2 whole chapters, 2 chapters, making and fleshing out the battle plan, and then spending a 3rd chapter on supposed character development between 2 characters that I literally could not care less about anymore, and then that character development doesn't actually go anywhere and doesn't change the ending of the story in any way, and then finally starting the battle on the next chapter. It's things like this that make me want to take this book, throw it into a blender, and serve it to my worst enemy. I'm getting way too mad in this video. I just need to, just go downstairs, drink some Orange Crush, take a breather. Like I said, there are just a lot of little stupid things in this novel that personally irritated me, but, like, honestly, if I were to point them out, it would just kind of seem like nitpicking, because they don't really affect the major story in any sort of way. So, just remember that there are a lot of things in this book that just don't make sense. Such as the book's ending. I would like to talk about the ending right now, because it's kind of stupid, but I realize that there are some people who probably don't want to have the ending spoiled for them, so those people can skip to this time code right now. So, you remember how I told you that that Dubon character has, like, a lot of pent-up rage within him? Well, a lot of that rage is directed at Jafar, so the guy steals Jafar's magic book that allows him to break the rules of magic, and he uses it to kill Jafar. I don't know why he thought that he needed a magic book to do that, because this guy carries 2 daggers, unlike the rest of the characters who only carry 1. And Jafar was tired and worn out from, the battle that just took place. So honestly, I think that if Dubon just, like, ran up to him and started hacking at him like a madman, I don't think Jafar would be in any condition to defend himself. But, magic book. That works too. Right before Jafar started dying, Jasmine told Jafar that she was going to use the genie's magic to undo all of the crap that Jafar did to Agrabah, so Jafar uses his dying breath to make his 3rd wish, which is that when he dies, all the magic dies with him. And this is presented as being, like, a problematic thing, and a significant ending and cliffhanger, because now, instead of Jasmine just saying 1 word and her city is returned to normal, now she has to hire carpenters. Oh no, the poor baby, what is she gonna do? And this is presented as, like, not feeling like, anticlimactic at all, or, like, not a good ending. It's presented as, like, the significant problem, but I'm sorry, this isn't a good ending. Like, at least in my opinion. The only even mildly interesting result of this is that the genie stops being a genie and just starts being like a regular human. I kind of thought he was gonna die, considering that Jafar's exact wording was that magic would die with him, but I mean, I'm not complaining. The genie's a cool guy. I like him. He's really funny. This is actually really sad because, believe it or not, this book managed to take the genie's backstory and make it even more depressing by saying that he is the only last remaining member of his race, and now that he is not magic anymore, the Jinn race is kind of just dead. So that's depressing. But my problem with this is that the genie still gets like the exact same ending as he gets in the movie. He decides to travel the world. It's just kind of bittersweet now. And the Dubon, the Jafar murderer guy, decides to come with him because he wants to go on a journey of self-discovery or something. But, like, it's not out of character for the genie, so I guess I can't call it a bad ending for him. But, like, it just feels like there was room for the author to be more creative with this, and she just wasn't. Okay, you know what? This entire video, I have done nothing but just relentlessly bash this book. I've gotten really mad at it, but, like, there were some things in this book that, like, I actually genuinely liked. Believe it or not, I'm not a heartless monster. I know, I'm surprised too. So why don't we just take some time to talk about some of the things that I actually liked. Now, first off, I would like to clarify that in making this video, I am not trying to imply that this author is not talented. Considerable skill, creativity, and hard work definitely went into this book, I can tell. I also really don't have many negative things to say about the author's writing style. Also, despite me doing nothing but ranting and raving about how parts of the plot made absolutely zero sense in this book, I do think that parts of the plot were very cleverly written, and although the fake-outs and plot twists at the end were alluded to earlier in the story, they did genuinely catch me by surprise. The thing that irritates me the most is that in the back of this book, there is the first 2 chapters of the second book in this series, which is called Once Upon a Dream, and is a twisted version of Sleeping Beauty. And the thing is, those 2 chapters were so much better and more interesting to me than, like, the entirety of that book, that I genuinely want to go out and read the second book now. And considering how much I really, really, really did not like this book, that's pretty freaking impressive. Good job, author. I think the thing that drew me in is that in the second chapter, they tell a warped version of, like, how Aurora was cursed, and, like, they describe Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather. Are those the 3 fairies' names? I think they are. They describe them as being, like, bad fairies, and Maleficent as being, like, a genuinely good fairy who's, like, swooping in to save Aurora from the 3 evil fairies. Now, granted, this could turn out later in the book to be a warped version that they want us to believe, but if that is how the actual plot of the story is going to go, that's a really cool alternate universe idea. I approve, author. Way to go. And really just those 2 chapters felt much better at, like, establishing and sticking to a consistent tone. Like, this book, I would not describe it as dark and edgy. I would describe it as wanting to be dark and edgy. But those 2 chapters of Once Upon a Dream, I'm not certain if they were edgy. I'm not even certain what actually qualifies as edgy. What is the definition of edgy? But they were definitely pretty dark. Now, granted, the rest of the book might fall victims to all of the problems that this book had, because this book also started off pretty strong. But those 2 chapters were just everything that this book did wrong, done right. And if this is just, like, the author trying to figure out how she wants to write things, and this is just, like, her scratch pad, and then all of the other books in this series are just astoundingly better, well, first off, I guess I'm sad that my brother bought me the sucky one instead of one of the good ones, but I'm also glad that the author managed to figure things out and be better. Abby, I'll see you tomorrow.